Welcome to this week's BizSmart Lunch and Learn webinar. Our weekly webinars are aimed to provide advice and share knowledge amongst business owners. And if you would like to keep up to date on our latest webinars, please make sure you follow us on SlideShare or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also access all of our resources for business owners by downloading the BizSmart app. Our host joining me today is BizSmart Select member Mike Gardner, the Time Doctor. Mike has spent many years researching, writing, training, coaching and mentoring and speaking on all aspects of time management. The underlining theme of all his work is to provide help and guidance that helps you get the balance right between your personal and professional lives. Thank you, Mike. Over to you.
Right, thanks, Caroline. So a lot of people ask me about procrastination and how they can get started, and procrastination gets in their way. So I thought, following the feedback we had from the last webinar that I did, which was the top 10 ways to be more productive, I thought I'd do something very similar this time. So the top 10 ways to overcome procrastination. So let's get started with that then. So the first one is what I call Mike's 5-minute rule, or some people like to give it 10. And what I say with this one is just give yourself permission to actually work on something just for 5 minutes. And if it's not going how you want it to go, then just say, well, that's all right, at least I'll give it a go. And almost sort of saying to yourself, well, do you know what, look, if I can do something, if I can do whatever for 5 minutes, then actually I can concentrate on this task for 5 minutes. So for me, well, look, do you know what, if I can spend 5 minutes filing, then actually I can spend 5 minutes doing this. And what you tend to find a lot of the time is actually it gives you that kick to get into it, that sort of momentum. So a lot of the times I tease Wendy, my missus, a lot of the time when she's struggling to get out for a run and everything. And I say to her, well, just put your running gear on. And once you've got your gear on, if you still don't feel like going out for a run, then you don't have to go. Right? But of course, once she's got her running gear on, she's off out with the best of them. So just take that 5 minutes. It gives you that momentum. It gets you over that initial hurdle. So just get started. Very simple tip, but it is very, very workable for a lot of people. So, and if you don't think 5 minutes is enough, just give yourself 10 minutes. So give yourself 5, give yourself 10, and actually get started on something. So number 2, and this is a big favourite for me, and also this is you'll see this is a bit of an underlying theme through all the tips really. It doesn't work for everyone, but just think about it. So can you reward yourself for completion or making progress on a task that you've been putting off? And it has to be a meaningful reward. So perhaps it's a project you've been putting off, or it's a task you've been putting off, and you're just going to say to yourself, right, actually, do you know what? I'm going to work on this. I'm going to make significant progress on it, and then at the end of that time, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to grab myself a coffee, and if you work from home, maybe sit on your patio bench for 10 minutes or something like that. But so what's the reward? What are you actually sort of working towards? Because a lot of time people sort of they work and work and work, and they don't necessarily give themselves a reward at the end of it. You could also do this in terms of just thinking about a lot of time people talk about the Pomodoro technique, which is also a great way of a technique to link in with this. So you can work for 20 minutes and then give yourself a 5-minute break. Work for another 20 minutes and give yourself a 5-minute break. Now those little 5 minutes might be that you go in to check your email, or you go into Twitter or Facebook, but only for 5 minutes, and then you start again. And then the last Pomodoro is another 20 minutes, and then you give yourself a 15-minute break at the end of it. So how can you reward yourself? And as you see on the screen there, if it's a massive big business project, you can actually do what I did quite recently, and it was a nice big project, and I actually did reward myself with some office furniture at the end of it, which was actually quite nice, and it helped to tidy the place up as well, which was good. So there's number 2 for you. And then number 3, this is a big one, and it takes a lot of digging and it takes a lot of doing to try and actually sort of figure out, but why are you procrastinating in the first place? And this is a bit of a serious one, because sometimes this can be linked back to fears that go right the way back to our childhood, really. So I wrote a blog recently on my website and identified what are some of the 3 biggest fears that people have around procrastination and why they put things off. And one of them, first and foremost, is the fear of failure. So why do, people don't want to fail at what they're doing. And the thought process is very much, well, if I don't start, then I'm not going to fail. So, it's a very common one for a lot of people. But also linked into that, completely at the other end of the scale, a lot of people procrastinate due to a fear of success. And their thought process behind that is that, well, I can do it, but what if I do it really well and it does work out exactly as I want? And they don't believe that they deserve that sort of success and that sort of acclaim. So once again, it links back into this whole sort of fear of perhaps being seen to be the go-to person and people coming to you. But a lot of the underlying theme is around, I don't deserve success, and if I don't start this, then I can't be successful at it, so then I won't have that success. Job done. And then the last reason, the third of the top 3, is our fear of just generally making mistakes. Now, you might think that links back into the fear of failure, but it is something a little bit different, because our fear of making mistakes tends to link back to our decision-making abilities. So what if we make a decision to go ahead with something and it ends up that we're going down the wrong track, or it ends up that the decision we make is the wrong decision in the first place? And one of my things with that is, I don't think there's any such thing as a wrong decision. I think you make a decision at the time based on the information that you have and the information, everything that's available to you. And based on all that, you then make the right decision. If further down the line you get extra information or something changes, then you make another decision. So what is your why behind your procrastination? So finding that out will then help you to overcome and get started. So that's number 3. Excuse me. And this is a big one. This is one that sort of a lot of people might sort of recoil over, but work on your discipline. So a lot of the tasks that we do and the things that we do within the workplace requires our own sort of self-discipline. And it's not just the things that we do in the workplace, but it's also the stuff we do at home as well. So what is our self-discipline like? You'll see in a minute in the next one as well, working on a sort of positive mindset, and the 2 link together really. But so do you give up? What's your strength of character like? When you get really tired, if you go to the gym or if you go out for a run, and you get tired, what can you run for 1 more minute? Can you run for, can you lift slightly more weights? Or, getting up in the mornings, can you get up just 15 minutes earlier, to concentrate on doing the task? So this whole sort of thing about working on our self-discipline is really important. And a lot of the time, just a slight improvement in our mindset and our self-discipline then helps us to overcome those initial barriers to procrastination. So halfway through then, so number 5, setting realistic goals. And for me, so it is setting realistic goals, but it's setting achievable goals as well. So the things that you set, when you set goals for yourself, are they realistic? Are they achievable? Can you actually use them to sort of, goals and things that you've succeeded in the past? Can you sort of piggyback on the back of those to accomplish even more in the future? But remember also that in terms of setting realistic goals, setting goals is not just about achievement tasks. It's not just setting the goals about things that you wish to achieve. It's also linking back to that. A big thing that underpins a lot of the stuff that I do is, what are your preservation goals? So what have you got in your life at the moment that you don't want to lose, that you're not prepared to jeopardize in order to reach those goals, those achievement goals that you set yourselves? And once again, there's a link back into self-discipline, because if you decide you want to spend more time with your family, then you've got to be quite disciplined in terms of leaving the office on time. Or if you work from home, you've got to be really self-disciplined in closing the door at a certain time of night and saying, right, okay, look, I've set a goal, I want to spend more time with the family, so that means I'm going to have to shut the office door at 5:30 at night and not open it again till the next morning. And it does take a lot of self-discipline, but if you want to reach your goals and get the work-life balance, that's what you have to do. So a lot of the time, in terms of procrastination, people don't really know where they're going. So try and visualize, what does the completed task look like? And not only what does the task look like, but how will you feel when it's done? So give yourself a bit of kudos as well. So, it's not just about visualizing the completed task and okay, once that's done, but for a lot of us, completing a task that we don't particularly like, or we've been putting off, also gives the ego a bit of a boost. So how will you feel when it's done? And the other thing with this is as well, how often have you in the past perhaps you put a task off, you put a task off, and then when you finally get round to doing it, usually because you're forced to, you're halfway through it or you finish it and you just think to yourself, do you know what, that was nowhere near as hard as I thought it was going to be. So try and visualize how easy the task is going to be as well. So visualize that outcome, and then you'll probably be able to work back a little bit from that, which links into one of the other things that we'll talk about in the next few tips as well, breaking stuff down into chunks, which will make things a little bit easier for you as well. So a big one for me, try and make it fun. So a great example for me on this side of things, I go to the gym every now and again, and I get on the rowing machine, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, I find the rowing machine complete and utterly boring. So if I'm there on my own, I can probably do about 2.5k in terms of distance on the rowing machine, and that's it before I give up because I'm really bored. But when I'm there with other people, and a few of us go down on a Saturday afternoon or something like that down to the gym, and actually we're just talking, or we make it a bit of a contest between the three of us, or we make it, we make it a bit of a bit of a race. It becomes fun, and actually I could knock off 5k on the rowing machine without even thinking about it. And sometimes the fun is actually just having a conversation between the three of us, and all of a sudden it's done, it's dusted, and it's out of the way. So are there any distractions that you can put into place to help you with some of your tasks? Are you in a position where you can sort of listen to music, sing along to it in your office if you're on your own? So what can you do to sort of distract yourself from perhaps the rigmarole of actually doing some of the tasks themselves, particularly with more boring ones? I know a lot of people say that you should work in silence and it's full concentration mode, and that works for some people, but for a lot of people they need that background activity going on as well. So just think about how you can make your environment just a little bit more fun and help you get over some of those jobs that you've been putting off. So I mentioned this one slightly earlier on, the positive mindset development. So a lot of procrastination is caused by the fact that we do put ourselves in a bit of a negative mindset. I don't want to do this. God, this is going to take me ages. I'm not looking forward to doing this at all. And sometimes it's just switching that mindset around. So trying to understand, looking at things from a more positive perspective. So if you might actually hate doing the job, as you can see on the screen there. I hate cleaning my desk. Well, can you change that to I love having a clean desk? I get a kick out of having I do my best work in a clean environment. And something like cleaning a desk as well, that can also link back into that very first tip that we talked about in terms of that 5 minutes because one of the things I say is that if you have got a messy desk, it's a lot of people put off tidying it, and they do procrastinate. Can't even say it. Procrastinate over tidying the desk up. But if you link in a positive mindset with the 5 minutes and just say to yourself, right, 5 minutes before the hour, I'm going to spend 5 minutes just tidying a part of my desk. So if you do that at 5 to 10, 5 to 11, 5 to 12 throughout the day, by the time you get to the end of the day, you've actually spent about 40 minutes tidying your desk, and it will look a lot better. So little things can lead to big things. But that positive mindset underpins everything. So think about it, back to that reward session again. So think positively about things. What's the positive outcome you're going to get from achieving this task? And then we touched on this a little bit, but number 9, and a real key one, break up large projects into smaller chunks. So a lot of people, what they do is when they look at a project, when they look at a task, they look at the whole task, and it's the whole task that is very daunting. But actually, when they start breaking things down into smaller pieces, the smaller steps and the smaller parts of the task or the project become a lot more achievable. So you've got some big examples there. So instead of sort of looking at the whole thing, I'm going to paint the whole house, let's just break it down into a room at a time and set guidelines for that room. If I know there's people that listen to this and they're authors, you know, or people want to write books. So if you're going to write a book, break it down into, once again, instead of worrying about doing things in order, decide you're going to write 10 chapters. What are those 10 chapters going to be about? In each of those chapters, break that down to 6 or 7 bullet points, and then concentrate on just writing a certain amount of words for each bullet point. And before you know it, you'll have, you know, from the makings of perhaps 100, 150 words per bullet point, you'll have the makings of a 10 chapter book, 60,000 words, which will be very, very easy for you. So break things down all the time. And then finally, group related projects and group related tasks together. So one of the things that a lot of people do is they swap and change, they jump backwards and forwards between projects, and they always concentrate on doing the nice things. So look at your tasks, look at the things that you have to do, and can you pair up a task that you dislike doing or one you're dreading doing with one that you really do enjoy doing, or at the very minimum you don't mind doing, and link those two. Can you link those two together? So what we're looking for there is there like activities that both tasks take up? So by doing one activity, you can actually progress both those tasks, the one you like and the one you dislike. You can progress them forward. Or it might be that by doing the task that you don't really want to do, then that might be able to link straight into a task that you enjoy doing. So the great example there, you know, a lot of people don't like doing research for blogs, for articles and things like that. However, the research allows them to write top quality articles, top quality blogs, which then go out on social media and get shared around social media. And it might be the fact that by doing the research, you can then write the blog, and then you can do what you really enjoy doing, which is turning the blog into a slide share or maybe a video or something like that. So how can you link those three together? So they're my top 10 tips really. Some of them are very simple and very easy to do, and I'm not saying that all 10 of them will suit everybody. However, from my experience, I've found that a number of those little tips there, very quick, short, sharp ones, can actually help people to become more productive because they do help them overcome procrastination.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. You've got some questions already come through for you. The first one is from Malcolm, and he asks, I find I am more productive if I deal with my emails at the end of the day. However, my online business requires that I deal with them earlier. What is the effective way of dealing with this?
I think that's a great question from Malcolm there, particularly as emails can be the bane of our life if we're not careful. So one of the things I'd say there, obviously Malcolm needs a lot of access to his emails, particularly if he's running his online business. So one of the things I'd say there, we can't let emails drive our lives. So in your instance, Malcolm, what I would suggest there is just check your emails once an hour, right, throughout the day, but sort of batch it together, and then just identify a couple of rules really around how you deal with those emails. So if you can, I always say to people, if you can answer an email within 2 minutes, then actually do it and answer it there and then and sort it out. It might be though that you've got orders coming in online and things like that, which take a little bit more time to do. So it might just be that actually those emails you can push to the ones that you can't answer straight away, you can push to the end of the day, as long, and just set aside a time that you can answer them. I would also say as well, it's about, to a certain extent, it's about educating other people about how we actually work. So put an autoresponder on that says you'll get back to people within X amount of time. So that's one way of dealing with it as well. I think it's just about setting up that system yourself. So for me, very much, don't jump in and out of them, because that does take up a lot of time. But if you say to yourself, right, and you could even, we mentioned earlier about 5 minutes to the hour in terms of tidying your desk, you could even do that with your email. So 5 minutes to every hour, 10 minutes to every hour, just go in and check your emails. And if you have urgent orders come in, then you can deal with them straight away. You'll be seen as being responsive. But if they're not so urgent, then you can sort of delay them and do them towards the end of the day when you feel far more productive. I hope that helps with that one.
Great, thank you. Your next question is from Sarah. Why do I put off things that I enjoy?
This one links back to our feelings of success and feelings of well-being, Sarah. It's you see it all the time, and people don't understand. Well, I really enjoy doing the job, but actually, I really enjoy doing something, but I don't. I just put it off and put it off. And a lot of the time, it simply comes down to the fact that because we know that once we start something and we get to the end of it, then that thing that we really enjoy doing has been done, so it's not there anymore. So one of the things I'll say is just think about, it's back to, why are we putting things off? Is it because you don't want them to end, or is it because actually you are worried about that fear of success again? So, and line up a number of things that you do enjoy. So give yourself a reward for actually completing it at the end, like we said earlier on.
Great, thank you. Your next question is from Steve, and he asks, how do I know that I am procrastinating or that I just don't have enough time?
I think, Steve, in that instance, a lot of people say they don't have enough time, but actually the reason they don't have enough time is because they procrastinate. Or what they do is they don't do the things that are most valuable for themselves. So in any business, in any walk of life, you will find that sort of 20% of things get you 80% of something else. So the old Pareto principle. So in terms of business, what's the 20% of activities that get you 80% of your results? And those are the things that we have to sort of concentrate on. So in terms of that procrastination versus that sort of time side of things, a lot of the time we procrastinate over stuff because we can't see the results of them. And a lot of the time, the things we procrastinate over fall into a big batch of what Pareto called the trivial many. So they're things that fall into that 80%, but they don't give us very big rewards. And we've got to turn it around. So first and foremost, concentrate on your 20%. Concentrate on the vital few that gives you those 80% of your results, and that will help you get the balance right between the two.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, Mike, for hosting today's webinar. I will be sending out a copy of the presentation with Mike's contact details out to you all very shortly. So please do email him direct if you have any further questions. But just before we close, just a quick reminder, if you would like to keep up to date on our latest webinars, please make sure you follow us on SlideShare or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also access all of our resources for business owners by downloading the BizSmart app. That's the end of today's BizSmart webinar. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope you can join us again very soon.